I would tell anybody here not to feel bad. Impacted by
You should have your folder back. If I have a paper, I should have it back to you, except I do not have Becky's and Kelly's. They're sitting on my desk. But if you thought you turned a paper into me, and of course you did, but I thought I gave it back and I didn't, talk to me about that, because I got to find it and look and see if sometimes things end up in the spam folder or something else. So if things aren't, when you turn in to me a paper, I am now going to be sending you an immediate reply that just says got it. Just so that you know it arrived and it's on my desk. If you want it back, if you have it in your folder or you can send it to me tonight, I will have it ready for you by late on Friday. I have 3 defenses on Friday morning, and so I won't be available Friday morning, but I will have them done before I leave Friday afternoon. If I get something by Friday, it will be in your folder for next Tuesday. But when the problem with taking anything later than that is if it comes into the folder next Tuesday or thereon after, you still have another week if you need it, but I'm not expecting it's a one-way trip. Okay, the last time through, if you're holding on to something because you're this wonderful perfectionist and it's just not quite perfectionist yet, understand if you wait too late, then that last week I evaluate only. Okay. Now I will tell you, just to make you feel bad, but not really, that some people already are done. That doesn't mean that necessarily they're done. That they can go ahead and continue to work, because once you're on this journey, every time you read something, it should go over into that pile of stuff. You're like, oh, or you find a good citation that fit in there. It's, keep that stuff on your desktop and be able to put it in, because you'll think you'll do it later, and then you can't remember where you read it, or you can't find where it goes, and so it should be something that I also have had 3 defenses in the last week, and all 3 people have commented. Yeah, all 3 people have commented on. The best thing about the defense is the feeling of relief you have, because not that you were scared of doing the defense, but from now on until you defend, there's this thing that you should be doing. You're out there flying a kite with your kid, and you're like, I should be, or you're watching a TV show and you feel guilty because you got, this thing. And that's the big relief that they were talking about, is all of a sudden it was like, it's gone. There's this thing that there always was something to do, isn't there. And what I tell them is that's really nice, but within a week, you will find something that, it's like taking a dipper out of a bucket. When you take that dipper of water out, there isn't a hole left behind. And that's the truth here too. They still aren't thinking that. They have all that list of stuff that they were gonna do, and that they're starting to do now. So my goal with you in this is not to have a finished piece. Okay, I mean, I may mark something like, you need to fix your transitions. That doesn't mean you go running out and fixing all those transitions, because you may end up putting these pieces that you've written in different places entirely, so the transition would have to be different. Anyway, what I'm trying to do is give you as much of input as I can at this point in your writing, so that you start both in terms of your content and your process, and also kind of the flow of what you do. This is the way I do this. This is how I've got a system on how and if the system is still becoming, at least you know what it is that's out there that's ahead of you for this. So when you turn your last one in, either from now on, if I get one, I'm going to put a rubric on it. Okay? So you can do them hard copy to me, you can do them electronic copy to me, but I will be doing hard copy with a rubric on top of it and getting it back to you in that way. Okay. Questions on that process and finishing up with that? Okay, on your table there's some little 3x5 cards. If when I'm in the part of what I'm about to do, you have ideas, thoughts, or questions, you'll forget them if you don't jot them down. So those are feedback cards for me. At the end of what I'm going to do, I will pick them all up and answer any questions as best as I know how to do that. Now next Tuesday when we come together, we will go back and have a session where you get a half an hour to work with one another. Some of you still have things that you were bringing that you want to bring to the table and share with the group. That's fine. Other groups may say, okay, we're going to do this. We're all going to share something. We're going to do, you can figure out what that is. but I'm going to be quiet for just a moment here and let you kind of figure out in that half hour when you first come in next time, how do you want to adjourn your group? Because you have invested in a group, and one of the things we know about group formation is that the last step of it is adjournment. And so it's going to be pretty informal, but this group that you've got together here is going to be in a different place, in different classes, and doing something different. How do you want to wind your time up together? What do you want to spend that half hour doing? And it isn't going out and flying the kite that I talked about. I mean, something here educationally valuable to you, but enjoyable as well. So talk to your group and talk about what you want to do next week when you come to class with the people that are at your table.
I have another paper floating around somewhere, Dr. Kaiser.
Another paper?
I think it was on one. I had one at Barb's desk for a while.
I gave you the copy that I evaluated. Is there a later one than that?
So, but all you wrote on the one that I have was writing is good, but you're going to add the finance piece. So I've been adding the finance piece.
Okay, but I don't have that. So I have the finance piece of this.
So that's going to be my final.
Okay, all right. All right, so that's new since then. That I just did yesterday. This copy you have here was just done yesterday.
So all I need to do is send you the final copy of what I've done with the finance piece then for my final.
Yeah, and work on that. You'll read some comments in there.
But I mean, that's what I've added. Okay.
Got it.
And I can send it like my Sunday and I'll see it on Tuesday. Is that what you're saying?
I will certainly try.
Well, if not, but that's okay.
If not, we'll make arrangements, and it might be Wednesday. But I will certainly try to have it done by then.
So, next week being our last meeting, I have a number of activities that you'll be doing as a table group. Some of them are a little silly, some of them are serious, but there are certain things that you will be doing with your table group. The first one you are planning for yourselves, and then I have a few others that you are planning as well, that I'm planning to do as well, so I should be saying. As I've gone through this semester, I have also taken the journey of a doctoral candidate, from the very beginning about how you research and gather things to comps, and nobody asked me. I just thought, how long is it going to take me till somebody asked me if I passed comps? And not one of you have asked me. Either you're too afraid to ask, or you absolutely know that you passed the comps question. You may turn to the person on your left and right and congratulate them because you passed that comps question if you took it. So, I learned some helpful things about that. One is I'm not going to do it that way again. And because when I looked at your faces, I was seeing the stress I used to see. And it was like the time crunch and so forth. And I'm not used to seeing that when you just come in on a Thursday afternoon after school and you just sit down and do your thing. And you're in a room by yourself and you're drinking your Pepsi and having music going, and I just didn't like the feel of it. I loved what you wrote. I really enjoyed the different varieties and flavors and issues and all of those things that you were putting to that. And I thought it was I think it's always rewarding to say, look at this, I started with just a bare idea, if that, when I sat down, and by the time I got through, I have something that's not only coherent, but is of value to someone else to read, type of thing. But I just didn't like the stress involved, and so I probably will not be continuing that pattern in the future with that. But the good news is that your comps question is passed in your folder and all in and set to go. And how you know for sure that I have it is as I put it in the file, I also clicked you 1 point on the My Grades. And if you say, well, wait a minute, I didn't take it, the rest of you will get your 1 point after this week. That's okay, but I just wanted people right now to say, did she get mine or did she not? If you look at my grades and you see 1 point, I've got it in. And if you don't, talk to me because again, like everything else, I get phone calls and we'll walk around and I don't want any slips with any of it. I have the paper if I need to go back for the actual paper. It's not like you're going to lose it, but that's how I did the system of what I'm doing. So now we're past comps and we're ready to propose tonight. Well, I am anyway. One of the major questions I have with people is, you talk proposal, you talk defense, what does it look like, how do you feel about it, what do you do? And so I have consistently, since 2005, given this every year at this time. And I do it because at first I did it to show that, I'm just like, I just did this. I know what I'm talking about because I've just been through this process. And now I do it because it just gives you a flavor or an essence of what this proposal, how a proposal is different than a defense and what you do in the two parts. You now kind of know about Chapter 1 is introduction, and Chapter 2 is your literature review, and Chapter 3 is the methodology, so you know some of those pieces. Now you're going to see it with legs on it the way I gave it in 2004. You have questions, thoughts, or comments? You probably won't feel like stopping me as I'm going through this. You certainly can, but if you want to jot things down at the end, I'd certainly be able to try to answer the questions. So this is my proposal. Now what I have to back this up and say is I didn't give my proposal like you're going to give it. When we do proposals now, we sit in a room around a table and there's just the committee there. So there's just like 3, maybe 4 professors and you. That's all that's in the room. When I did it, every doctoral candidate in the program was in the room. And every faculty member was in the room. Because in those days, every semester they had what they called a seminar night, and they asked some people to stand up and give what they were doing. Well, my lovely professor, who was my chair of my dissertation, said, you know what, we're always having people give their final defense. Let's show proposals next time. And I'm sitting in the room like, Kay, your proposal will be ready to go. I hadn't done any of it. I mean, I was like, sure. And so here I am, I'm getting up and I'm giving this to the every one of my peers. That will never happen to you, I can promise you that, because I had that experience and I'm never going to do that to anybody else. But the reason I even tell you that is because this is more entertaining than if I was sitting around with 5 people around a table. I would not do this dog and pony show that you're about to see. So don't think that the craftiness of making pretty borders or whatever those things are that you see there is the norm. People do a nice polished presentation. And basically what you do in a proposal is you have written your background and you are proposing and saying, okay, committee, here's what I think I'm going to do. And they all read it and they say, you know what, question 2, you say students. Do you mean 3rd grade students or do you mean all the students in the school? Or they'll give you feedback. You never defined espoused dispositions in your paper. And so what they're doing is they're looking for all the pitfalls that might happen as you go forward so you don't fall in them. They aren't there to quiz you. They're there to say, is this solid? Will this make it through all the permissions that you have to have? And do we think that you're going to get a successful answer out of that? Now, successful answer doesn't mean significant answer. We have a lot of dissertations that come through, and every question is no significance. Is there significance between those 2 groups? No, none. That can oftentimes be good news. If you're saying both groups are successful, that's a good thing. It's to say one's more successful from another may not be what we want in education. We want everybody, Now, if you say everybody's unsuccessful, that's a different story, but isn't that important to know, too, as you make your recommendations of what's going to go on?
Dr. Kaiser, when does this happen?
This happens after all your classes are done.
Okay.
You've passed all your comps,
Okay.
and you've written Chapter 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Some people, that's 6 weeks after they finished their last class, and some people, that's 2 years after their last class.
Okay.
And most people, it's within the next 6 months. So that's why I tell people, when you get your classes done, kind of think the next 6 months you're going to propose, and the following 6 months you're going to defend. There are people that go much faster than that. And it doesn't always match up, because in a qualitative, very often the proposal comes sooner, because you don't have as much literature or background, because you don't know what the people are going to say. But it takes more time between the proposal to go out and interview all those people and get that all transcribed and done. And so that space is longer. In mine, where I was doing a survey, it took me a longer time to write that beginning piece. Not very much. I was pretty sleep deprived over this thing, to get it ready for November, because in September I had nothing. We didn't embed it like we do now. But it takes more long. But then I just gave the survey, and I did this in November. I was giving the defense in June, but that was because I had to wait for the survey. The survey didn't go out till April. If I could have put the survey out in December, I could have been done in February. So all those things come into play with how long and which, people say, how long is it going to take? I don't know how long it takes you to write it. How long is it going to take? If you're going to say, I'm going to use the NISA scores from this year, you have to wait till they take the test. It changes for each and every person, and I've never seen the same, even when I've seen people replicate studies, I've never seen the same journey twice. So here I am, I'm standing up in front of all of these people, and this is the thing that I said when I was up there. I'm not going to say every word that I said. A lot of times I'm going to do Cliff's Notes version and go on to the next, and I'm also going to step out of it and talk about why and what I was doing, what was going on behind the curtain in part of this as well, because you don't really care about the data in the end, you care more about the process. So, my dissertation is looking at the difference between espoused and observed dispositions, and I'll explain what those words mean. But behind that, that question behind the question thing that I talked about earlier this semester, my question behind my question is, how do we know what good teachers are? I mean, I know you're a good teacher. I've never seen you teach, but I know she's a really good teacher. How do I know that? And how can I make more of her? And how can I help people in this business become better at their craft? How can I get every classroom to have a great teacher in it? That was my question behind my question. So I'm stepping on it. I did a historical lit review about good teaching and what we've thought about good teaching through time. And here it is. We've always known what it means to be a good teacher. The ancient Greeks could have told you when they had a good teacher and when they didn't have a good teacher. But we've never been able to actually articulate exactly what that is, that special right stuff, even though we know what it is. Let me give you an example. Yeah, this is an example from a long time ago. In fact, this is an actual teacher from the state of Nebraska who taught in the late 1800s, early 1900s. When she went to school, she did not go to high school. She went to normal training. After 8th grade, she went to a school that taught people how to be teachers. So you think she has a lot of lessons on classroom management and all that stuff that we did in our first year. None of that. What did she do in normal training? She prepared to pass, I believe it was 17 tests. Sound familiar? 17 tests to become certified as a teacher. And you know how long that certificate lasted? 1 year. And every year she would take these tests. Here's an example of Pearl's teaching certificate. And by the way, this is the way they took their notes. Even the doodles in the margins of her notebooks and so forth are so artistic and so beautiful. The interesting thing is, if you take American history in 1894, you're studying all the battles of the Spanish-American War. I'm like, what is that? well, there hadn't been any World War I or World War II. I mean, American history was deeper, but it was also shorter at that time. But look at her certificate. She had to take mental arithmetic, written arithmetic, bookkeeping. Now she's an elementary grade 1 to 8 teacher. Drawing on the blackboard, reading, physiology, history of the United States, English grammar, and down here at the bottom is the theory and art of teaching, even in 1890.